air. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders shut down CNN White House correspondent April Ryan on Thursday, telling the journalist that professional athletes should be uniting the country and not finding ways to divide it. Huckabee Sanders was taking questions during a White House press briefing when Ryan asked the secretary how the president would respond to future NFL protests. "We're understanding that many NFL players are still very upset with this back and forth," said Ryan. "Many NFL players are very upset, many people have different ideas, opinions on this, and an anticipation that there will be more so this weekend. What is the president anticipating? I think the president's made it very clear. This shouldn't be about the NFL being against the president. It should be about our country coming together to support the flag, support the national anthem," said Sanders. "There's nothing wrong with having pride in the United States. The president's been very clear on that and he's certainly not going to back away from it." The NFL said it's not about not having pride. "They're saying they're patriots, they love this country, but they're challenging the system," pressed Ryan. "I think if we're going to look at history, we should look at the thousands of Americans who have given their lives to protect that flag, protect that anthem. We should be celebrating those people. We should be looking at every way we can to celebrate our country, bring it together, not looking at ways so to divide it," said the press secretary. Watch Huckabee Sanders take on CNN's Ryan below. Officer escorting him crashes. Trump refuses to let Air Force One take off until he talks to him. On Wednesday, President Donald Trump was being escorted through Indiana on the way back to Air Force One when one of the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police officers, Robert Turner, crashed his motorcycle on I-70, Blue Lives Matter reported. The cause of the crash is unknown, but it appears people stopped to take pictures instead of helping the officer. Several pictures show the officer, with several cuts, lying next to his motorcycle on the ground. After help arrived, Turner's motorcycle was left behind on the road. The officer was rushed to the hospital and put into a neck brace and appeared to be in poor condition. But then, he received a call from Trump. Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department posted to Facebook that Trump refused to take off until he spoke with the wounded officer to thank him for his service. Watch. The caption read: "Video of injured Officer Turner speaking with President Donald J. Trump. POTUS delayed taking off from Indy until he was assured Officer Turner was okay, and he also called and spoke with the officer. Thank you. On behalf of the IMPD, we would like to take an opportunity to thank President Donald J. Trump for his thoughtful act in delaying his departure in Air Force One until he was assured that the officer injured in the motorcade accident was okay." Calls were made by his staff to Chief Brian Roach checking on Cycle Officer Turner. President Trump even took the time to speak with Officer Turner after the accident, to check on him. "Thank you for your compassion, concern, and leadership, Mr. President." The president made it very clear just how much he cares about law enforcement. Michigan's governor says Huckabee E2's job is not in jeopardy. The Michigan Legislative Black Caucus asked Michigan State Police Director to resign following her statement in which she defended the American flag and the military. The 23 lawmakers demanded Governor Rick Snyder to fire Colonel Huckabee E2 if she refused to resign. E2 wrote on her Facebook page condemning the players who protested the anthem, calling them "millionaire greats who hate America and disrespect our armed forces and veterans and a bunch of rich, entitled, arrogant, ungrateful, anti-American degenerates." NFL players and coaches last week protested the anthem by kneeling or not even appearing on the field during the national anthem, which resulted in even more drama surrounding the NFL. E2 made those comments on her private Facebook page and only people who are her friends could see it. She defended her post on Tuesday when Progress Michigan asked her to resign. When such a high-ranking member of law enforcement feels compelled to share such broad, inaccurate, and shameful comments, their judgment can no longer be trusted to help protect Michigan's diverse communities, Lonnie Scott, the organization's executive director, said. Let's set something straight. These protests are not about the flag or about veterans or the military, they are about speaking out against police brutality and injustice in communities of color across America. That is something that law enforcement should take to heart, not use to try to divide us further. E2 responded. It was a mistake to repost this meme on Facebook and I sincerely apologize to anyone who was offended. I will continue my focus on unity at the Michigan State Police and in communities across Michigan. As a public servant, Colonel E2 has great respect for the armed forces and those who fight to protect our freedoms, a spokesperson for the colonel said to the Detroit Free Press, saying E2's post had nothing to do with race. E2 did not create the post, Banner added. It's a meme that is posted in other places around the internet, she said. Her post brought a lot of controversies. Some members of the Michigan Senate defended her and some called for her to step down. It is clear that Colonel E2 does not understand the nature of the protests, nor respect the First Amendment rights of protesters, Democratic Representative Sheldon Neely, the head of the Legislative Black Caucus, said. This calls into question her ability and objectivity to lead the men and women in her department who are charged with not just enforcing laws, but also protecting and serving people of color. She's not sorry for her position, just that she posted it. How can she continue to do this job? Democrat Senator Vincent Gregory said. If this had been an everyday officer, they would have been terminated. If we just let this go, what does this say about the state of Michigan? What does it say about the state police? But GOP Senator Rick Jones stood up for her, saying she has worked hard for diversity. Now she's coming under fire for sharing a meme on her private Facebook page. She has the same First Amendment rights as do the players who take a knee during the national anthem, he continued. Michigan's governor also supported her and said E2 shouldn't worry about her job. She has served with distinction as an outstanding public servant for decades, Anna Heaton, Snyder's spokesperson, said. The governor will not be asking her to resign. Please share this post on Facebook with your thoughts. What is your opinion on this? Scroll down to comment below. Report: Trump strikes down 97-year-old law to save Puerto Rico. President Trump is working quickly to return power to the 3.4 million Americans recovering from Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. President Trump has waived the Jones Act, allowing Puerto Rico to import more fuel and emergency supplies as the island recovers from the devastation wrought by the 1-2 punch of Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Maria. Puerto Rico Governor Ricardo Rossello had personally requested President Trump waive the law. Under the Jones Act, only American-flagged shipping vessels are permitted to trade in Puerto Rico, USA Today reports. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders announced the temporary end of the Jones Act on Twitter, writing, At Ricardo Rossello request, POTUS has authorized the Jones Act to be waived for Puerto Rico. It will go into effect immediately. The Puerto Rican governor replied simply, Thank you POTUS. Secretary of Homeland Security, Elaine Duke, says she received a letter from Gov. Rossello requesting the Jones Act be waived to help the island recover from the storm by purchasing much-needed fuel, food, and supplies. The Jones Act will not be in effect for 10 days and will cover all goods. It is intended to ensure we have enough fuel and commodities to support life-saving efforts, respond to the storm, and restore critical services and critical infrastructure operations in the wake of these devastating storms, explained Duke. The Merchant Marine Act of 1920, or the Jones Act, was originally enacted to promote the domestic shipping industry. Only American shipping vessels are permitted to ferry goods across American ports. However, the restrictions on trade have caused shipping prices to increase in Puerto Rico as the island territory is dependent on maritime shipping. American ships are saved from competing with foreign shipping vessels, allowing them to charge more for their services. President Trump waived the Jones Act between September 8 through September 22 after Hurricane Irma to help Texas and Louisiana accept emergency supplies from foreign-flagged vessels and speed their recovery efforts, but it only included Puerto Rico for petroleum products. The Jones Act can only be waived in the interest of national defense. After Hurricane Irma made landfall, the Department of Defense called on President Trump to waive the Jones Act on September 8. Any decision to waive the Jones Act must be approved by Customs and Border Protection. Yesterday, President Trump told reporters that he was considering waiving the Jones Act, but was facing major pushback from the American shipping industry. "Well, we're thinking about that, but we have a lot of shippers and a lot of people that work in the shipping industry that don't want the Jones Act lifted, and we have a lot of ships out there right now," explained President Trump. "And I will tell you, the governor was very generous yesterday with some statements, and so was the mayor of San Juan, very, very generous with their statements." Customs and Border Protection originally denied the request to waive the Jones Act, USA Today reports, claiming there is a sufficient capacity of American vessels available. They were forced to reverse the decision due to pressure from the president and the American people. This serves as another piece of evidence that President Trump is looking out for the American people. It is a fact that even the most caustic on the left cannot deny. Charles Barkley: "I would stand for the national anthem personally." NBA legend Charles Barkley decided to come forward and make a statement concerning the massive NFL drama. After many accused President Trump of making an aggressive statement about the disrespectful players who protest the anthem, Barkley couldn't stay silent anymore. Barkley appeared on the Dan Patrick Show Monday to share his opinion about the national anthem protests and about Steph Curry's remarks about Trump. His opinion about the anthem protests: "I would stand for the national anthem personally." Barkley then explained that politics has nothing to do with his opinion. "You know, Dan, you said something earlier and it always annoys me when people say it. You know, I've never voted Republican a day in my life. I'm a Democrat, and just for the record, Democrats aren't doing anything for black people either. My mother asked me if we're Republican or Democrat and she said only rich people are Republican. I said, you do know we're rich, right? People assume. I do want to make that clear. I've always voted Democratic, but they're not doing anything for us either. I want to make that clear." He also talked about how he can't understand why, if these players cared so much, don't go into the communities and help somehow. "The media has totally hijacked this conversation about who's kneeling, who's not kneeling, who's holding their fist up. I forgot why these guys are doing it. We got a lot of power. We got to use that power in a position way. We can go into some of these communities and do a lot of positive stuff. Don't worry about what the president says. The players, they got so much money now and got so much influence. We need to take a progressive approach and go into these communities ourselves and try to make a difference." The players got to say, "What can we do collectively? Let's don't worry about the president, let's don't worry about the media. What can we do individually?" They can go to the owners and say, "Hey, let's go into these communities," instead of wasting time about kneeling and who's protesting. When asked about Curry's remarks on President Trump, which led to Trump canceling his invitation to the Golden State Warriors to visit the White House after becoming NBA champions, Barkley responded, "Well, I think anytime you get an opportunity to go to the White House, it's an honor and a privilege. Don't care who the president is, I think you should go. How many times are you going to get an opportunity to sit down with the president and discuss some issues with him? Not going is over with. It's just giving these guys on TV and radio something to talk about." Barkley, a loud Democrat, was right when he suggested that if the players really wanted to make change, kneeling isn't the way. Instead of going to the communities and helping, they are wasting their time kneeling. Listen to the full radio interview below. Please share this post on Facebook with your thoughts. What is your opinion on this? Scroll down to comment below.